Hi Dharma friends, this is Paul, and I'm responding via this little video to Bern's last email, because simply by the time I get around to my Shin Buddhist stuff, it's very late in the evening and I am pretty exhausted from having a busy day, and my stamina has still got a long way to go, to be honest with you. So my writing tends to get sloppy and it kind of sounds like I'm drunk and I don't see my own mistakes to fix, and so I'm trying to use video because hopefully that'll do a better job for me when I'm talking to you at what is here 1 in the morning, and we'll see how it goes. But anyway, so Bern, I want to speak to you particularly, and I hope I'm saying your name right, that it's Bern and not Bernie, but I'll call you Bern until you tell me otherwise. I want to respond to what you said, and I really want everybody in the Sangha to hear, because this is not just about you or you and me or, whatever. This is about something that I think is the most important topic in the world for those of us who are, enamored of and, have given ourselves over to the true teaching of the Pure Land Way as articulated by Master Shinrin, Master Renyo, Shakyamuni in the 3 Pure Land Sutras. And so here's what I want to say, okay? I disagree with you 100% on your thought that this is just a semantic thing, that we're using different words. Totally disagree with you, okay? I do not want to have a Dharma argument or a Dharma debate about any of it, okay? Because debates are absolutely useless, worse than useless. They tend to bring out the egotism in each of the participants. So they take us exactly in the wrong direction, in my view, and I believe Shinrin would say the same thing. He said, let there be no scholarly debates, and I'm not a scholar, and you're not a scholar, so our debate won't be scholarly. But even if it's an unscholarly debate, it's useless for the same exact reasons. And what I'm going to say is, let's make sure that we both articulate what we have to say. And so when I responded to you, I basically deconstructed it sentence by sentence, okay? Because I wanted you to know exactly, not just you, but everybody, to know exactly why I took such exception to what you're saying. Because first of all, as the steward of this Sangha, okay, not the boss, but the steward, I would never let anything that was such a clear divergence from the teaching that I've been giving since 2004. I would never let anybody say something like that, even if they were very well intentioned, which I totally believe you are. I would never let anybody say something like that without responding as directly as I possibly could. Okay, not being mean, not being uncompassionate, but just as directly as I ever speak to anybody. And Shakyamuni Buddha was the same. When somebody came to him and tried to convince him that the system of Hindu classes was a good thing, Shakyamuni was just blunt as blunt could be. Okay, then some other guy came and started to talk about eternalism and God. Once again, Shakyamuni, he just was as blunt could be. He didn't pull any punches. He wasn't mean, okay? He wasn't non-compassionate. But compassion in that case was for Shakyamuni to pick up the Dharma sword and slice this thing, the other guy was saying, into ribbons. Is he slicing the guy? No. He's slicing his delusions and obscurations, okay? So yes, that's exactly what I did with you, okay? And with very deliberate intent. And it's what I do all the time, when I'm preaching and teaching to the entire Sangha, and I say what these guys say are just nonsense statements. They have nothing to do with the Dharma. Couldn't be more blunt. I'm not being mean. I'm doing it with a smile in my heart. But that's a big part of what Amida has called me to do. And I'm so grateful to do it, okay? So that's the first thing, to get the set right where I'm coming from, which is not a hostile or a hurtful place at all. Now, having said that, if you need to say something back to me so that we understand each other right now, that's good. Because I want to hear exactly what you're saying. I want to understand it. And then I want to make sure you understand exactly what I'm saying. Okay? It's like two guys, each talking to the other guy as if the other guy is the teacher. And the first rule is you want to understand exactly what the other person is saying. Okay? So I think we're there on the understanding, the mutual understanding of one another. And so now what do we do next? Well, like I said, we are not going to have a Dharma debate. Absolutely. It doesn't happen in my Sangha. Don't do that. We don't do that here. Okay? But there is something we do here all the time. And it is the essence of what we do. And it's the essence of what I do everywhere when I'm speaking and teaching about the Dharma. And that is, we have a Dharma dialogue. Okay? And at the end of the dialogue, when we understand each other, and I think we're there right now, if we're not in agreement, we're not in sync, the thing that we do is we go to the one practice in True Shin Buddhism, the singular practice. The only thing we do is practice, which is to listen deeply to the Dharma. Now, you've been a Shin Buddhist a very short time. You were a Zen Buddhist for 20 years, okay? You are not yet acclimated to doing things our way. It's obvious, okay? And really, nobody is in the beginning. You come in, and, you know, if you've been a Tibetan Buddhist or a Zen Buddhist or a Theravada Buddhist, okay, whatever, you know, and you've been doing it seriously for a long time, your brain is literally etched, like with a knife, with the neural pathways of, you know, doing Tibetan Buddhism hot and heavy for 20 years. So you come out of there, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. And that's expected. There are very few people who come in immediately. And I would say Camille is one of them, actually. A really kind of a virginal mind in that sense. And the first time we start talking, everything she just gets right away. She's got nothing else to put aside. This is just her karma. So she comes in like with a beginner's mind, to use a Zen phrase, okay? She's really put everything down because she doesn't have anything to carry to begin with. Most of us are not like that. I was like that, to be honest, but only because I had gone through so many tragedies. Death of my brother, then death of my daughter, both suicides, you know, and I was taking care of my dying mother. So my brain, you know, my smart brain, it is pretty smart brain, was just blown away. I didn't have any Buddhism anymore. I was like a guy standing in the middle of the Holocaust. And so I had an empty slate at the time. You know, and as soon as Aiken confirmed to me that Amida is a real Buddha, which I'd been hearing the opposite from all these idiots for a long, long time, and that the Pure Land is a real place, and I'd been hearing the opposite once again from all the big guys, okay? And I would say, why would I question them? I never questioned them when I first heard them, because I know nothing, I'm new, and these are the big guys, so they must know the deal, right? So that's how I was. And so after the tragedy was with my daughter and my brother and my mother who was dying in my arms, you know, I just felt like I was living in a Holocaust, and I had no brains for Buddhism anymore. And so when this thing came to my life, I was an empty slate too. It was very easy for me. Nothing at all. Once I had a good teacher, somebody who was a true teacher, as Aiken Kobai Sensei is, one of the greatest true living teachers for sure, my brain was just, you know, starving and ready to drink. That's all. So I didn't have your situation karmically at the time. And there are many guys here who do have a similar situation to you, like Chris Toney and other people who come here after many years in some other Buddhist discipline. And it really takes time for the shift to really sink in. You know, Shinran talked about this a lot. You know, this is, yeah, it's the easy path to Buddhahood, but he said it is the most difficult of the difficulties to actually transition into the mind that is ready to receive Shinran. You know, it's real, and he says most people don't do it. He says literally, most people just don't do it. So here, our goal is to have everybody do it, So when I talk to you, or I talk to Harry Watson, taxi driver, used to be a taxi driver, at least, friend from England, you know, or I talk to Valerie, or anybody, okay, I'm looking to get a win out of every single person that they're going to come to Shinjin in this life. And they're not going to have to go through this crazy train of samsara anymore. That's where I'm coming from. My goal is that you, at the end of our dealings with each other, however many years, would think just the way I do. I got to tell you, I'm not gonna mince my words on that, because I'm thinking right. Okay, after many, many years of seeking, I am thinking so right that I help other people think right. Okay, and it's just an awesome thing. It gives me the most pleasure in my world, really. Okay, it's just an honor and a privilege and everything else. So I'm engaging you in that spirit. I'm making no bones about it. So what do we do, you and I? Well, the thing to do, if you're willing to do it, is that we both would go and follow the instructions. You know, I'm coming to the computer business, and one of the sayings there is, when all else fails, read the instructions. Okay? And so the instructions for us as Shin Buddhists, whether we're seekers or finders, doesn't matter. Whether we don't have Shinjin yet, or we've had Shinjin for 10 years or 20 years, doesn't matter, is to listen deeply. Okay? And I mean really do the job right. Okay? And I'm going to explain the job again, this listening deeply job, again, not just for you, but for everybody listening in. And if this thing goes viral, that's great. I'm going to try to make it go viral, but this is not just for you or for you and me. This is the deal. This is the deal for the entire Sangha. This is the deal for every member in the Sangha. Okay? All right. So what do we do when we listen deeply? Let's go over it again. And then I'm hoping and assuming that you will join me in this thought experiment of doing the practice. And then after we've both done it independently, not with talking to each other, we'll come back and talk about what we heard, what we found. I hope that's the deal. That's why I'm offering you this deal, okay? So, you know, the first thing, we have to understand what the teacher or the other person, even if it's not a teacher, what the other person is really saying, okay? That's number one. And then what we have to do is we have to lay aside all of our dependence on everything we know with a small n, a small k, and also everything we think but we're not quite sure about, and everything we believe, okay? We have to lay it entirely aside. We got to make ourselves like that empty slate as we begin this listening deeply business. And we can do it. Anybody can do this, okay? This is not self-power work, okay? You just say, I'm going to take everything I know, everything I think, everything I believe, all the systems I've concocted in my mind to explain life, the universe, and everything, and I'm going to take them and temporarily put them on a shelf or stick them in a box. And I'm going to put the box in the basement closet, okay? Ray would say a lot about that. He's a living expert on how not to do that and waste 5 years. And I so love Ray, and he's turned into an amazing, amazing guy. But, you know, he did it the wrong way for 5 years, and once he took my advice and did it the right way, it took about 5 days, the whole thing. It was these kinds of things just, you know, they give me goosebumps and tickles at the same time. So anyway, we do that with as much integrity as we have. What you think? Who cares? What I think? Who cares? I'm going to make it even better. What Shinran thinks? Who cares? What Renyo thinks? Who cares? What Shakyamuni Buddha thinks? Who cares? Shakyamuni Buddha himself, talking to the Kalama people, he said it directly. Don't believe anything the teacher says. Even if I'm the teacher, don't believe me. So could it get any more plain than that? I love when people read, the Dharma, collected works of Shinrin. Dave Kremke just got himself a copy, and he's just beside himself with how wonderful it is. Okay, and I love that he's reading it. Okay, and I gave him the order in which to read it, which we have in our portal. I wrote a little thing up about the order I recommend for people to read this thing for the first time. It's gigantic. It's his, it's his life work, and so I gave some suggestions. So I'm not saying to anybody, don't read Shinrin, don't read Renyo, don't read the larger sutra. Okay, I don't want anybody walking away and then, slandering me because they're going to say that I said that. I'm absolutely not saying that. But I am saying when it comes to the time when we're going to go, full bore in this thing, okay, and listen deeply, because that's the real deal here. That's the real deal, is just being able to listen deeply, because we've taken all this stuff out of our mind. We put it aside for now, just for now, okay? And then each of us basically goes into our own private space, okay? And you can say it however you want, because Amida Buddha is listening to everything we say. Absolutely everything, okay? And you can say as simple as, for you, it could be something like, Amida, is Paul right in what he's saying to me? Is he on the money? Or is he just confused? You can make it very personal about our dialogue. Or you can say it in more generic terms, is this phrasing that I'm using indicative of a self-power approach, like Zen particularly, because to me it stinks of Zen, the whole thing? Or is this legitimate exposition of your Dharma? You can say it like that, however you like, okay? And the thing is, when we ask Amida Buddha, and, Amida Buddha lives in our heart, because all the Buddhas are one Buddha, all expressions of the Dharmakaya body, okay? When we ask, we can ask in our heart, where our Buddha nature lives. And Shakyamuni told us that. He says, you have two kinds of consciousness, as he was dying. As he was dying, he said this. You have ego self-consciousness, and you have Buddha self-consciousness. So that Buddha self-consciousness is living inside us all already. There's no question. Okay? And you ask. And then you just wait for Amida to speak to you in your heart. That's what you do. That's all that you do. You don't know the answer. You just don't. And neither do I, until I go through this process on this subject. And I wait, and I'm humble, and as far as this question goes, I don't pick up my box of stuff. I leave it in the drawer or wherever. Okay? That's a mind that's ready to hear the voice of Amida Buddha in a significant way. And so what I'm suggesting, brother, is that you do this process with this little Dharma dialogue we've just been having. Okay? You do it. And I will do it as well. In fact, I've already been doing it. I didn't wait for you. Okay? Because I know this is the only thing that is real. Nothing we think is real. Nothing we heard from anybody else is real. None of it is real until we hear it from Amida Buddha. And I'm not just talking to Bert, I'm talking to everybody here. Starting with me. Okay? And this is the big fallacy that gets the Sangha in trouble. Out in the middle of nowhere, preaching and teaching divergent ideas that are crazy. Okay? And I'm using the blunt words. Absolutely. I'm a blunt guy. Nice guy, but blunt guy. Okay? And the way back from that wilderness, as an individual, as a corporate Sangha, is to just lay it all down and listen to Amida and let him straighten it out in your mind. Okay? So please feel free to write me back in the group. I'm just going to post this somewhere. Maybe I think I'll actually add it to the YouTube videos, because this is really a great example of, putting flesh on the bones of everything I teach in that video. Okay? I talk about all this in the video, but it's still very abstract when somebody's just talking about it. Now we're doing it together, and I think it would be wonderful for me to put this in those videos. So, I love you, brother, and I'm glad you're with us. And one day you're going to say to me, it's the best thing you ever did. You're going to tell me one day, okay? I don't know if it's going to be today, but one day, just like Rick, when I got Shinjin, okay, back in 2004, I didn't have a blog yet. I didn't have, certainly not a Sangha yet. I just got Shinjin. Like, I just came back out of the wilderness, and all of a sudden I was seeing everything with entirely different eyes. I just wasn't confused about anything. That's Shinjin. And so many other people have said similar things. I'm not bragging on it. It's not mine to brag on. And so I went to this, the only active Shin group on Yahoo at that time was a group called Shin List. So that's where all my Shin Buddhist friends were hanging out. And Rick was there, and I had known Rick before on another list. And a bunch of other people I knew. And a lot of, I didn't, of course. And so I come back and say hello, and I say, you guys have no idea what you're doing. It's all wrong. And of course, it got kind of the same reaction that it got from you. And, a lot of people said nothing, but a lot of people started to holler at me. And Rick was the biggest hollerer of all. Okay, he was great. He's my best friend. And he said, you're just he said what you just said, but he said it a lot more eloquently. He said, you're just a Shinrin thumping fundamentalist, And it was very dramatic, and I didn't really like it, to be honest, And I found myself in a Dharma debate, not a Dharma dialogue. I didn't like it. Very stressful. I'm still, literally only 1 year since my daughter's death, and I have complicated grief. I have PTSD. I'm not fit to walk outside hardly, really. I was that sick still from the death. And so I really didn't want to get into an argument with anybody about anything. So I left. I don't remember if I said goodbye. I think I did, but I left. And that's when I started the Shin Ugly blog, where I owned the space. And I could speak loudly and clearly. Take a whole blog post, write a post for 5 or 10 pages, as much as I'd like. And, I didn't have to take anybody's guff about it. And that's when the Sangha got really riled up at me, and I became infamous all over the place. And Adrian wasn't even doing anything just yet. He came along about 2-3 years after. We both tried to figure out the chronology here. Halfway around the world, Amida was finding another guy just like me. My brother Adrian, I love him so much. And honor his work so much. And, one day you're going to look back on this just that way, okay? Take a little time. Got to get your ego rattled up. I am rattling your cage, no doubt. You got to get that ego back in, like a wild dog back in its cage. And now we're in a place to calm down and to listen deeply. All right, brother. So give me a response to this on the group website, and I'll put this up in the videos, so it's going to get a lot more mileage for helping people. And I'll even post it on Facebook. And so for those of you who don't know, by the way, and we have one guy come in today, we have now a Facebook space, and it's called Buddha Dharma Sangha. It's got about 350 members. Okay, most of them just viral. Okay, And so I am now using that space, and I'm starting to understand it better, to actually make poems, videos, Dharma teachings, whether myself or Rick's or Camille's or other people's. You know, I love when Dave Starr writes stuff. I love when people write their autobiographies. And when I post them there, or somebody else posts over there, what happens is it goes out to all 270 of those people, many of whom are Shin Buddhists. Okay, ready? And then it gets posted on their timeline, and a lot of their friends are also Shin Buddhists. So it gets incredible lift and mileage, and I'm just tickled pink about that too. So I'm determined that as long as I have breath, I'm going to tear down every divergence, so that we can have a Shin Sangha that's healthy and strong, and able to bring new people on with a multitude of teachers and priests who are really able to do the job. The same job I do, the same job Rick and Camille do, the same job Adrian does. You know, you got a small number of people right now, but let me tell you, you know, like the thing with the chessboard, and you put 1 grain of wheat on the first and 2 on the second. It's going like that. Okay, so I'll sign off here, and Namo Butsu to you, Bern particularly, and to everybody else who's listening in as well. Thank you.